Hello, government students. Welcome to your next set of virtual notes here. This one is on federalism, right? So we're going to be looking at how dividing up the power between state governments and the national government helps to limit the power of government overall. Okay. Remember, that's what federalism is: dividing the power between the state and national governments. Okay. Remember, we talked about some of the different types of powers. We had expressed and implied powers. Okay? Those are both going to be granted to the federal government. That's through the U.S. Constitution. Remember, Article 1, Section 8 is where you can find the express powers of Congress. Article 2, Section 2, the express powers of the executive branch. And implied powers are granted to Congress via the necessary and proper clause at the end of Article 1, Section 8. Meanwhile, you also have in our Constitution reserved powers. This is through the 10th Amendment. And these are powers that are reserved to the states, anything that's not listed in the Constitution. So that means the states are going to be making decisions in a wide variety of different areas. And then lastly, we have concurrent powers. These are powers that belong to both the federal and the state governments. A lot of these are going to just be things that are, almost every government's going to need to be able to do these things, like power to tax and such. Okay? So why do we have federalism? Well, it goes all the way back to the founding of our country. Our founding fathers looked at the situation left by the Articles of Confederation and said, we can't have just all the states having all the power yet because of national threats and other issues. We need to have some sort of unity between the states and some sort of national government. Okay? So we've got to find a balance here. Where Confederacy didn't work, what about something new? What about trying something that hadn't been done before and finding a little bit more of a balance of power between strong national government, but still having the states able to do a lot, right? And this is really what ends up resulting in federalism, ensuring that the states have control over a lot of issues that are not really of national importance, but the national government can address those issues that are of national importance. Okay? And really, federalism allows us to get the best of both worlds. It allows the national government to deal with areas of national attention, things like national defense, dealing with things like maybe immigration, issues that are going to affect the entire country, whereas it allows the states to look at things and say, well, we want to tailor things to meet the needs of our population, because as we've talked about previously, every state is a little bit different, right? Michigan is different from that state to the southeast. Okay? Michigan is different than California. Michigan is different than Texas. So all of these different states have kind of their own little cultures, have very different values a lot of times. By having federalism, by allowing the states to have make decisions related to issues that are going to affect them, it allows us to kind of address those needs differently and come up with different solutions. And really what it ends up creating is this idea of laboratories of democracy. Each little state gets to kind of be its own experiment, trying new things out. And if there's an issue that's affecting the whole country, such as healthcare, and each state is trying some different things and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And if you have a couple of states that all of a sudden are trying similar things and it seems to be working really well, then the national government can come in and say, well, maybe this is how we need to address the issue at the national level. Okay? And that's exactly how Obamacare came about. The Affordable Care Act. Massachusetts, with Mitt Romney, had created essentially a state version of that. And then President Obama kind of expanded on that idea with the idea of the Affordable Care Act. Okay? These are kind of the breakdown of powers. Some of the things that here you have the express powers that are listed on the left there. Again, you can find most of those in Article 1, Section 8 or Article 2, Section 2. Then you have the concurrent powers in the middle here. These are things like collecting taxes. Every government needs to be able to have taxes, collect taxes, regulating banks, establishing and administering a judiciary, borrowing money, providing for the common good, making laws. Okay, those are the concurrent or those shared powers. And then far on the right, you have the things that are reserved for the states, establishing local government, all right, regulating interstate commerce. Okay? Intrastate is talking about commerce within a particular state. Public education, for the most part, is going to be run individually by each state. So every state is going to look a little bit different with that. Each state is responsible for conducting elections, which is why you get differences in terms of how elections are conducted in all the different states. Regulations for marriages, professional licensing. Okay? all of those things are going to be done at the state level, and a lot more. All right, there are a ton of things that are going to be done at the state level. Okay, now that doesn't mean the national government doesn't have some say. The national government has grown into touching the areas like public education in a number of ways through funding and through different laws that really address needs of the entire country. Okay, but the decisions for the majority of that is going to be left up to the states. Okay, this is a quote from Federalist number 45. Okay, and it says, powers of the state would extend to all objects in the ordinary course of affairs concerning the lives, liberties, and properties of the people, and the the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. And what Madison is really saying here is he's in Federalist number 45. He's laying out a defense for the Constitution as it defines federalism. Okay? There was a lot of criticism early on between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists by the Anti-Federalists as to there was too much power at the national level. Okay, that the national government could do too much and not enough power was reserved for the states. In fact, and Madison is coming back and saying, look, in the vast majority of areas, the states are still the ones making the decisions. All right, we are not creating this all-powerful government here. We have a division of power, a little bit of a tug of war that's going to be going on between the states, and the states have a lot of leverage in this particular area. Okay, we're going to be doing this in class. Okay, but the limits on federal powers, you can find those on Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. Limits on the state powers, you can find over in Article 1, Section 10. Okay, so those are the two areas that you're going to be able to find some additional information. Be ready for that when we get to class. There may be something for the person who can get there the quickest. Okay, some of the limits on powers. What can the federal government not do? Well, they can't suspend the writ of habeas corpus. Okay, habeas corpus is Latin for right for the body. That means they can't imprison someone without going before a judge. You can't just go ahead and lock somebody up and throw away the key without having due process go on. Okay, they can't pass ex post facto laws. These are laws that are after the fact. So let's say all of a sudden one thing was legal one day and then the next day it was made illegal. If you did it the day before it became illegal, you cannot be prosecuted for doing something that was legal at the time. Okay? That's what ex post facto laws are. You can't tax exports from another state. You can't. The federal government cannot favor one state over the other. It cannot spend any unauthorized money. That's why we get some issues of government shutdowns occasionally, because the Congress has to authorize the government to spend money, and they also cannot grant any titles of nobility. Okay? You don't have any lords or barons walking around the United States. Okay? State governments, though, they also have a number of different limits on them. They can't do things like coin money. You don't have like a Michigan dollar or Ohio Indian dollar or anything like that. I don't know why anybody would want to buy a dollar from Ohio. Okay? But each of the states are not allowed to coin money. That's something only the federal government can do. Okay? States can't make treaties with other nations. Michigan can't go and make a treaty with Canada. Okay? They also cannot pass ex post facto laws. They can't impair the obligations of contracts. This is why you should always read your contract through employment or any other type of contract thoroughly so you know exactly what's in it, because once you sign that, you are required to fulfill your obligations there. States can't go to war with one another, though, us in Ohio, Michigan and Ohio came pretty close there over Toledo. They can't enter into agreements with other states, and they can't establish foreign trade alone. We have to work together with the federal government on that. Okay, so those are the limits on powers. And that's everything for federalism here. Not a ton in terms of that. We do have a bunch that we're going to go over in class, so make sure you are ready to go, and I will see you then.